This is Unit 8, Part 1 on graphing, and our learning target for Day 2 is I can make a table and graph a linear equation. As you remember, when we're graphing a linear equation, we make a table with x, y, and we pick values for x. We substitute those values into the equation and find what y would be, and then we plot the points and draw a line through the points and make sure we have arrows on both ends. Again, for today, you will need to use coordinate grid paper or graph paper for the video. So make sure you collect that and then continue with the video. Okay, it says Sue's hair is 3 inches long and grows 1/2 an inch per month. The length L in inches of her hair can be modeled by the equation L equals 1/2 m, or 1/2 times m, plus 3, where m is the time in months. So if it's 1 month, her hair will grow 1/2 an inch, plus the 3 inches that it already is. So we've got our linear equation. There's 2 variables. They're both to the first power, and they're both in different terms. So now we're going to create our table, and we won't use negative numbers because it's length of hair, and so we know that it has to be 0 or positive. So I substituted in 0, and I got 3 inches. In other words, if no time passes, her hair is still going to be 3 inches long. Substituted in 1, and got 3.5. Substituted in 2, and got 4, and substituted in 3, and got 4.5. So now that I have my table, and I've found my y's, or in this case my l's, after substituting in my x's, or in this case m's, I'm ready to graph. Here's my coordinate grid. Here are my labels. Here's my hair length in inches vertically, and time in months horizontally. So I'm going to plot my points: 0, 3, 1, 3.5, 2, 4, and 3, 4.5. And draw my line with my arrows. This was a good review of what we talked about yesterday. Now we're asked to interpret from the graph we created. So it says Sue's hair is 3 inches long and grows 1/2 inch per month. The length L in inches of her hair can be modeled by the equation L equals 1/2 m plus 3, where m is the time in months. Now we're going to use the graph to estimate how long it will take Sue to grow her hair to a length of 5.5 inches. So if we go up here to 5.5 inches for the hair length and we read across the graph, we find that that's going to take 5 months. So the graph shows that it will take about 5 months for Sue's hair to grow to a length of 5.5 inches. Okay, yesterday in our video we talked about a hot air balloon that started 5 feet off the ground and rises 2 feet per second. So we created our table, we plotted our points, we drew our line. Now we're going to extend that and ask, when will the balloon be 17 feet above the ground? Well, here's the height in feet, so here's 17. And if I read down, I see that 6 is the seconds, time in seconds. So the graph shows that the balloon will be 17 feet above ground in 6 seconds. Now we're going to talk a little bit about horizontal and vertical lines. This is a horizontal line. If you get confused what horizontal is and what vertical is, this is my mnemonic device. Here's our horizon. The sun is setting on the horizon, and that is a horizontal line. So that's my little trick to remember which way is horizontal. This line has 8 different points on it. Can you name a couple of the points on this line? Okay, so I've listed the points -4, 2, -3, 2, -2, 2, -1, 2, 0, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, and 4, 2. What do you notice about all of these points? If you studied the coordinate points or the plotting points, what do you notice that they all have in common? Well, they all have the same y-coordinate of 2. There's 2 for every y-coordinate, meaning the line goes across where y equals 2. So when we have a horizontal line, the equation is y equals and then a number. So for example, this equation is y equals 2. This equation would be y equals 5 because y is 5 here. So line A equation is y equals 5. Here's another line. What would be that linear equation? Yep, it's y equals 0. And here's another horizontal line. What would line C be? Y equals negative 4.5 or y equals negative 4.5. Vertical lines go up and down. So can you name some points on this line? Here are all my points on this line that I've highlighted. 3, negative 4. 3, negative 4 is down here. 3, negative 3. 3, negative 2. 3, negative 1. 3, 0. 3, 1. 3, 2. 3, 3. And 3, 4. What do all of these points have in common? You remember back with our horizontal lines, all of the y-coordinates were the same. In this one, all of the x-coordinates are 3. That's how it's a vertical line. So if the x-coordinates are 3, this line could be written as x equals 3. So any vertical line says x equals, and then it tells us where the line lines up vertically. So for this line, it's x equals 3. Now what would this line be called? Line A would be x equals negative 5. What would line B be? X equals negative 1.5 or negative 1.5. And line C, x equals 4. Okay, before you finish, I'd like you to do some graphing for me and bring this back to class. I'd like you to graph the line x equals 4. I would like you to graph the line y equals negative 3. And then the last one asks you to create a table, graph the equation, and use the information in the graph to answer a question when you come back to class. So right now you're going to do step 2, which is substitute m in and find out what j is. Then you're going to graph it, and then we're going to talk about it when you get back to class. So Jacob is 5 years older than his sister, Mary. The equation for this is j equals m plus 5, or y equals x plus 5. So Mary's age is across the bottom, Jacob's age is across the top. So go ahead and do these 3 problems and bring them back to class. Before you finish, tell me something that you learned or were reminded of, and a question that you have.